10-plus games a year for like going. This will be like the 10th year in a row if they do it this year. You don't do that by depending on one or two guys and having to reload, and then 2 years later you're back. Justin's been steady the whole time. From Sammy Watkins, before Sammy Watkins, DeAndre Hopkins.
Sure.
They have wide receivers. I don't even know what the names are going to be. I ain't even worried about that. Trevor Lawrence will find them. The Rundown with Desmond Johnson, Saturdays at 10 a.m. right here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Find your next car at Auto Store of North Carolina in Walkertown. Their goal is to make car shopping and car buying experience fast, friendly, and easy. They have helped hundreds of customers get behind the wheel of a newer, reliable, quality used car, and they could help you too. Stop by and speak with one of their sales professionals today and drive away with your new car. The Auto Store of North Carolina, 4964 Reedsville Road in Walkertown. Give them a call at 336-595-8550 and view the current inventory of vehicles at autostoreofnc.com.
Like to have everybody's attention for a moment.
There's a stat. I don't like bringing up stats, but there's one stat about the Panthers.
He's in the world is James Harden better scorer than Michael Jordan.
No, he's a more creative in that.
Traveling is not creative, Brandon.
He doesn't.
You know, no matter what the score is, and they've said it themselves, whether they're up 10, down 20, whatever, they know they can turn it on whenever.
Why did you have to bring up the Cowboys in this conversation?
Lived in Texas for 2 years and just could not stand to watch Cowboys football.
All right, listen up.
Welcome to The Rundown. Here's Desmond Johnson.
Oh boy, welcome into a jam-packed edition of The Rundown. We got a lot to get to today. Elite Eight starts off today. Do we want Armageddon? Because we are on the brink of it. I feel like this is what they felt like in the 60s when the United States and Russia were finagling each other with nuclear weapons or whatnot. We are this close, this close to Armageddon happening in the state of North Carolina. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Panthers general manager Scott Fitterer had some interesting comments on the state of the franchise, and we'll get to that as well. NBA, Hornets, Sam Farber, play-by-play voice from the Charlotte Hornets radio network, stops by, give us a State of the Union for the Charlotte Hornets as they try to avoid the play-in. There's just a whole lot of nonsense going on right now. It's Saturday morning. The last thing I remember before I went to bed last night was Caleb Love being interviewed after dropping 27 on the head of I'm still wore out. I'm still wore out from last night. Carolina advances to the Elite Eight to take on the St. Peter's Peacocks, the darling of this tournament, the Cinderella story. But the bigger story that's lurking in the background here, Duke advanced the day before. They're taking on Arkansas today. I think the tip-off's a little bit after 8 o'clock. Carolina will take on St. Peter's in the Eastern Regional at 5 o'clock tip on Sunday. Brandon Blakney here with me, Kevin Avery from the Four-Man Rush. Guys, I'll just cut right to it. Do we really want a UNC-Duke Final Four matchup? Because this has been kind of out there for the past couple of weeks, and this is the closest we have come to this since 1991. These two teams have never played each other in the NCAA tournament ever, which is crazy considering they're both blue bloods. They're both rivals. You would think their paths would have crossed somewhere along the way, and they never have. The closest that's ever happened was 91. Of course, Duke defeated UNLV in the Final Four. That was unexpected. In the other Final Four matchup, Carolina had made it and took on Roy Williams in Kansas. Dean got ejected from the game 6 minutes into the first half. Kansas beat Carolina, went on and lost to Duke, gave Coach K his first first national championship trophy. We are at a moment in time where Duke and Carolina, if they both win this weekend, today and tomorrow, we are going to have Duke versus North Carolina in the Final Four. Coach K's last year, Hubert's first year. It's the biggest rivalry. I've said it on this program. It's the biggest rivalry in all of sports. I'm gonna let Brandon go first here because I know he's not. I don't think you're a Carolina or Duke fan, correct? You don't have really an attachment to either one.
Well, I was raised a Carolina fan, so I do get that little twinkle in my eye when I see that blue win. But I try to be unbiased, man, as a reporter and having, with my previous job with Phenom Hoops, having scouted so many of these kids. I know kids on every team, Duke, Carolina. So I just pray for a healthy game, man, because I know these guys are trying to make money and feed their families and, get that degree. So that's what I hope for is a healthy game. But I will say, Ray's is a diehard Tar Heel, man. Seeing Caleb Love do what he did to UCLA last night, man.
He
I
changed
was
some
hyped.
shoes. He changed them
Yeah,
Jordans
man.
over to them Navy Blues and just started going for it. You know what's crazy too? Because I've had beef with Carolina fans all year because I feel like they were throwing Hubert Davis under the bus, and that's my dude. I wasn't having it. I felt like they were throwing Caleb Love under the bus. They were throwing RJ Davis under the bus. And I'm like, these are 18, 19-year-old kids. And y'all are sitting here complaining on Facebook as if, A, y'all can even play basketball right now. And B, if you even know what's going on in the locker room, it's like, oh, it's the coaching. They're not responding to the coaching. And Hubert's over his head and all this other nonsense. I'm waking up today and I'm seeing people on Twitter talking about Hubert should be considered for coach of the year. You know what I mean? Like, pick a stance. Pick a stance and stick with it. Like, Carolina fans have driven me nuts this year because of it. I see you shaking your head, Kev, because I know you've seen some of this on Twitter and social media this year as well. What are your thoughts on this? Do we really want UNC versus Duke in the Final Four? Like, if we really sit down and think about this, do we really want this to happen?
Well, Des, you know me as a diehard Tar Heel fan since '87.
Oh, I saved you.
Since the days of J.R. Reed, Kenny Smith, them boys, yes, I want this because nothing more would be finer to know that we gave Coach K his last loss at Cameron and the last loss at the tournament.
Like ever. Like it's just final loss. Like the last two times you lost, well, 2 of the 3 were to your arch rival. Like that's
right. For me, that would negate all of this. Well, since he's been the coach, he has a winning record against you guys and blah, blah, blah. No. When he closed his coaching eyes, all he saw was Chapel Hill. That would give me a set. That would be almost as equally as winning the championship itself. To do that to Coach K, that would bring me a joy like no other. Like this would be something 20 years from now when I have my Facebook memories pop up and be like, boy, he was here. We took that Coach K down.
He might pull a Tom Brady, man, and have to retire. He loses,
right?
Again,
and just and pop up 2 months later. You know what? I thought about this. I've been thinking about that the past couple of months too. I was like, what if he decides he's gonna come back for another year, like and do a Tom Brady? Tom just did it. Why can't Coach K do it? They're both the GOATs, right? So we're actually gonna have that conversation in hour 2 because I've been seeing this also where K's just been given this title of the GOAT of college basketball, and I'm like, I see a lot of similarities between Coach K and his argument to be GOAT and LeBron James and his argument to be GOAT, because both of it's really statistical at this point. Like when LeBron is done, he's going to be number 1 in points and rebounds and assists and all this other stuff. But people phrase the term GOAT differently. They look at it differently. And I'm getting like that with K because for me, I'm like, I look at the GOAT as like, what were you at your peak? When you were at your peak, how dominant were you over everyone else around you, as opposed to how long were you good? And K is on that I've been good for a long time tip, but his peak, I think K's peak probably 91 to 2001, I guess. There's 3 titles in there. His best team is the 91-92 Duke team, probably. I think everyone would agree with that. They went, back to back. He wins in 2001 with a completely different makeup of a roster. A lot of ACC titles in there as well. I would think that 10-year period is his peak. But since then, from 2001 to now, it's been stretched out longer. And he just simply has coached longer than everybody else. Wooden, Dean, Roy, like everybody. And I know he's got 1,200 wins, which is insane. You got to average like 30 wins a season for 40 years to even get to where he is. So mad props for all that. But we'll get deeper into that conversation. Larry and Frank will be on a little bit later on today, and we'll talk about that. But first, these 2 teams got to get past the 2 teams they have to play, and I wanted to get your opinions on this. First, Duke and Arkansas later on today. I won't get the official tip time. I think it's at 8 tonight. It's the late game. Brandon, what are your thoughts on this Arkansas team? Because they kind of feel like Texas Tech a little bit, almost like a watered down version of Texas Tech. They play defense kind of similar to them. It's not written in stone that Duke's going to get past his Arkansas team. They needed everything and then some to get past Texas Tech.
Champ is doing a great job. He's been raising Wu Pig Sui back to life. I think an interesting tidbit, not to get off subject, but two of the guys on this team were actually high school teammates that I had on live with Brandon Blakney, Odesi Tony, who people are saying is the best player in this tournament right now for Arkansas, who transferred there, and Joey Baker were actually high school teammates and won a few state titles together. So now they're competing in an Elite Eight matchup. I think Chris Lights, the kid that was the point guard for Miami, has been really good for them. They're big, they're physical, they got a lot of athletic wings that they can throw at you. They're scrappy. And I don't know, man, it could be a bad matchup for Duke. Like, Duke's really gonna have to, like how they played the last game when they had to, they were about, it became a tough guy contest where it really got scrappy, it got physical, and they had to play a really physical brand of basketball. I think Jeremy Roach needs to have a bigger game. I think he will be the X factor. He closed their last game out in the Sweet 16, closed it out, and one of the big reasons why they're in there. I think that the guard play will have to be there. I think Paolo is going to get his. I think Mark Williams will have to be big as well because Arkansas has got some good bigs, but Mark Williams just defending the paint, getting those second chance possessions for Duke, those extra possessions, I think will be big. But this is definitely not a cakewalk.
Kevin, your thoughts on Duke Arkansas later on tonight? It felt like when I watched that Duke Sweet 16 game against Texas Tech, they were doing things that are I don't want to say out of character, but like stuff that they normally haven't done during the season. Like they played zone for a lot of that second half. They kind of had to keep Texas Tech out of the lane. It did work, and then they reverted back to man with a couple minutes left to go. I was talking to Steve Wiseman on The Score yesterday with Brett Wiseman, and I mentioned to him, and you could probably understand this logic being a longtime Carolina fan. When I was watching that Sweet 16 game with Duke, the moment I realized they were going to win that game was when they slapped the floor. Like when they slapped the floor in the second half, because people don't understand what that means. Like you can't just be a Duke player and slap the floor. Like you have to kind of almost earn the right to slap the floor. And it's a symbol of defense for them that they're about to turn it up on defense or whatever. And I don't remember this team doing that this year. In fact, the last memorable moment I remember anyone slapping the floor, it wasn't even Duke. It was against them. Do you remember 2013, that Miami team that was really good at Shane Larkin? They were like 24, 25-year-old men playing college basketball, and they just kind of ran through the ACC. They were up 25 on Duke in Miami. I remember this game like it happened yesterday. Warren Sapp is in the stands, and Miami started slapping the floor on Duke up like 25 with like 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. And it was the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen on a college basketball court. And I loved it. That was the last time I really remembered anybody doing it. So seeing Duke do it on the other night on Thursday, I was like, oh, okay. Something has happened where a switch has been flipped. And this Duke team now believes in themselves that they can get this done. Where I don't know if they believed that a couple of weeks ago. Kev, what are your thoughts on that?
But as far as me, I just think that, with this matchup they had with Texas Tech, I think that it forced Duke to play a style that they're not really comfortable with. However, they did adapt and survive. So for them to get a second dose of it in back-to-back within, I guess a 48-hour period with a team that now has film to see how they handle similar type of play and aggression, I think is going to be a telltale sign. I really see this being a really good strategic matchup against Arkansas, against Duke. When you just take a look at the box score here, I mean, with Duke, they seem to spread it out, with Benchero and with Roach. Yeah,
Hill's kind of disappeared in that game, but
yeah, I think Odesi Tony, that's going to be a very big matchup for them.
I feel like because Duke shot over 70% from the field in the second half. I don't know if they can duplicate that against Arkansas. It's not exactly 40 minutes of hell, but they do apply a lot of defensive pressure. Another thing I noticed too, Paolo, actually, someone must have told him he's Paolo Banchero because he didn't hesitate on Thursday night. When he got the ball, he went to the cup or he shot or he went. And that's what he's supposed to be, the number one pick in the draft, right?
He looked like it. He
did. He did. He can literally get a shot whenever he wants, but it's like sometimes he forgets he can get a shot whenever he wants. Would you draft Chet Holmgren or would you draft Paolo Banchero if you had the number one pick in the draft?
Second thoughts, Paolo.
I mean, and Chet is like a unicorn, but like Paulo's more polished. Like Paulo looks like he could have went now and been a contributor in the league somewhere. So I mean, Duke has all the pieces they need to do this. Now on the bottom of that bracket in the East, Carolina is now facing. I finally got a chance to watch this St. Peter's team last night, probably the whole second half. I can't figure it out. What are they doing? Like, what are they doing? It's almost like their guards are just kind of determining the outcome of these games, but I can't figure out how they're beating these teams that are just bigger. Like Purdue had a 7'4" dude out there, like just eating, and they still were able to get around them. Like, what have you guys noticed with this St. Peter's team? The Peacocks on National Peacock Day yesterday, getting to the getting to the Elite Eight.
Basketball, man. Oh, go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead, Kevin.
Now, for me, I mean, you know, when it's tournament time, it's two things that can really help you advance. That's strong guard play and senior leadership. And, you know, with this, you know, St. Peter's team, they have both. And for me, when you look at it, in spite of their seed and where they came from, you know, after they won their second game, you kind of look like, okay, if they can maintain this, they got a quote unquote winning formula that can allow them to really make some noise. Now, can I sit up here and say I saw them coming to the Elite Eight? No, I'm not even gonna cap like that. I'm not even gonna be, you know, anything like that. You know, you can.
I didn't even know where they were until last night. I didn't know that they were up in Jersey. Like I had no clue like where the school came from. A 15 seed, first 15 seed ever to make the Elite Eight.
Right.
And you know what? Watching them play, they didn't shrink at all. Like they didn't look like a 15. Like they look like a top 4 type seed where like they look like they belong there. That's probably the best way to put it. They look like they were not scared of the moment at all. And I mean, hats off to them, man. Like now, granted, I can't cheer for them Sunday. It's a little bit of a different problem on Sunday. It was weird. I was watching that game and I'm like, would I want Carolina to play Purdue or would I want them to play this St. Peter's team? And I was like, Purdue already whooped us earlier in the year. And like, they got the one thing Carolina can't deal with, and that's height right now. Like if you got a squad that's got some height with them, Armando can't battle like a forest. You know what I mean? So like we almost have to look for the teams that don't have that. That would be St. Peter's, but St. Peter's has the guards, and it's like Carolina's probably one of the first teams they've seen in this tournament that can kind of match them in the backcourt with guard play if RJ and Caleb Love are on. But usually what happens, it's one of the two. It's usually either RJ's on and Caleb is off, or Caleb is on and RJ is off. And that's what happened last night. Caleb Love got on in the second half, and you know, that was it. But when you get both of them on, like they were on against Duke and Cameron, they're almost you almost can't beat them if they've got both guards doing what they do. Mm-hmm. What have you guys seen from the maturation of RJ Davis? Because this kid, he wasn't really the point guard at the beginning of the year. He was kind of taking turns with Caleb, and somewhere along the way, Hubert just kind of handed the reins to RJ and made Caleb the 2. And really, since then, this Carolina team's been humming.
Yeah, absolutely, man. RJ's really developed. He's always been able to score the ball, but I think the decision-making has come a long way. He's getting guys involved, and they look really good in the pick and roll, which I think will be key, man, because St. Peter's has 5 guys that can score the basketball. And when you got a team that can move the basketball and everybody on the floor is a scoring threat, that can be tough to guard. So you need your guards to be strong with the basketball. And I think they've gotten better with cutting down the turnovers, especially late in games since that the round of 32 matchup where they almost blew it with Baylor, man. I think that they've been stronger with the basketball. I think RJ has grasped because I mean we all know when you're a Carolina point guard, you got to be one of the that's a position where we've seen like, some of the best guys in the nation.
That's like quarterback for the Cowboys or
like you got to be
Yankees. You know what I mean? Like Carolina point guards. Yeah.
You got to be able to hold those reins. And I think with every game, RJ Davis has become more confident running the show. He's playing with good pace, too. A thing about guards is you can't let the opposition, you can't let your defensive matchup control your pace. RJ hasn't been letting them speed him up. He's been playing at his own pace. He's been really controlling the tempo for these guys. And I think that he's doing well to get the ball out of his hands quickly, too.
Kev, with RJ, you see a little Joe Barry in him?
I've heard the comparisons. I've seen it. I'm gonna go ahead and be that one to say, yeah. it's just a poise, because here's one thing I noticed about, with Carolina, they didn't let the fact that they had a bad shooting first half stop them from firing that bad boy up. Particularly Caleb Love. He was like, 1 for 8 in the first half.
Yeah.
There
was bad Caleb Love in the first half.
And he stepped into the booth and came back like Steph Curry in the second half. I mean, it was just, it was just good for the confidence, because overall Carolina shot only 40%. Only Blakney had a over 50% shooting, but each one of the players had a key bucket at a key stretch in the second half that just kind of allowed us to come back, because UCLA could never get ahead by no more than 8, which I was glad to see. But as far as with RJ Davis, though, definitely, I see him growing into that Joe Barry like poise, and when things are hectic, he's kind of the one that's kind of making the plays to settle it down, whether it's off with his offense or defense. So I definitely think the comparison is legit.
Real quick before we hit our first break, so what do you think the odds are that this happens? But if you had to choose a team that has the better shot to lose this weekend, Duke or Carolina, which one would you lean on? Because they're both entering different situations here. I don't think Carolina will overlook St. Peter's, considering who they've beaten to get here. I'm sure Hubert's going to treat them as a threat. They're not going to go into it, expecting to roll the ball out and win by 20. That's just not what's going to happen. And then over on the Duke side, I'm sure they're probably preparing for Arkansas the same way they prepared for Texas Tech. I mean, it's kind of a similar type of game plan they're going to need. But again, I don't expect Duke to shoot over 70% as a team for the entire second half and not miss a shot for like the last, it was like 8 minutes of the half or something crazy when they started to kind of fend them off. Out of those two, which one is more at risk to lose in the Elite Eight round, Carolina or Duke? Brandon, we'll start with you.
I think it's tough, man. I think the obvious choice would be Duke, but for me, I mean, St. Peter's has nothing to lose, and they've got a really good coach who's about to secure a bag in this offseason. I think they run like an NBA system. They run like an NBA system, man, where they're gonna score points. Like, I think this is a game where Bacot has got to go for like 20 and 20. Like, he's got to dominate this game and really impose his will. But I think it's just crazy enough for them to do it. But with that being said, man, I think Duke is more at risk just because Arkansas, it's hard to beat a similar team like that twice. And it's a lot of similarities between Arkansas and Texas Tech. And I don't know if they're going to come out with that same toughness, that same chip on their shoulder, because you got to be ready for a dogfight when you line up and strap them up against Arkansas.
F, your thoughts out of the two, Carolina and Duke, which one's the most vulnerable trying to get to the Final Four with their matchups they've got this weekend?
I don't want my bias to show. I would love to say Duke.
This is the show. If you've got bias, this is the show for it. So if you want to plant that flag, then go for it, my man.
No, I want to definitely just say that I think that it would definitely be Carolina, and here's the couple of reasons why. Just as I think about it, number one, even though it hasn't shown yet, the lack of depth for Carolina does concern me. God forbid, any one of the, starters, either something happens, anything like that, because, that's one thing I hope in the off season with recruiting and coaching that we could definitely address, because Carolina gets very little to nothing from the bench outside of players running up and down the court.
Looking at you,
yeah. Now, is the talent there for there to be more? Yeah. But I definitely think this is the game that I would like to see Blakney and man, probably be more dominant on the inside, because Mansik, he was like 3 for 10 from 3. If you're hitting, that's fine. But there was points in the game last night I was yelling like, man, take it to the post. Like you got work there. Like I would like for us to. I think that even though we like to run it traditionally as Carolina, I think we're more better suited with this type of rotation to be a half-court team to really execute and dominate more. So I would think that if we can, that we're a little bit more at risk of losing because, like you said, St. Peter's got nothing to play for. They're all about scoring. We got to slow it down and we got to beat them up. And so I think that's my reasons why.
I agree with that. And then if in fact this does happen, just to give you notice, so Brandon, you know, a week in advance, if Carolina and Duke both win, just plan on the whole dang thing Saturday being Duke Carolina like themed. I don't even know in my mind like like what we're gonna officially do. Just know going into it, when you get out the car and you're about to walk into the house, know when you walk into the house it's gonna be just Duke and Carolina, like just the whole thing. So I don't know if we're going to get it. Like I said, I've never had it in my life. I'm 44 years of age. It's only come close once.
It's been so crazy.
It feels like it's going to happen. Like it really feels like it's the first time ever where I'm sitting there just looking at the bracket. Even at the beginning of the tournament, I was looking at the brackets like that could happen. Like that could actually happen this year. I didn't expect some of these games to go the way they did, but we're right here. We are right here. So if it does happen,
basketball's lining up like some WWE type stuff like that.
Yeah,
like, they know we want this. They know we want this.
And you know the crazy part. The crazy part about all of this, the thing that makes me the most upset, if in fact it does happen, for some reason WWE scheduled WrestleMania weekend on Final Four weekend, and it's 2 nights. So for some reason, Saturday night is first night of WrestleMania and the Final Four, where it might be Carolina versus Duke. So it's like, what are we doing? Like, what happened here? And then it just, I don't want to talk about it anymore. We're going to just go ahead and we're going to go ahead and just take a commercial break. When we come back, Panthers general manager Scott Fitter spoke to the media, it was yesterday, and gave some pretty revealing answers to some stuff that Panther fans have been kind of squabbling about online. Kevin Avery and the 4-man rush were there to give us some of his comments, and we're going to check on some of those here in just a bit. You are listening to The Rundown on WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
The wait is over. Simply Sonia's Southern Cuisine and Cocktails is now open. University Parkway inside the Best Western Plus Hotel. Open 7 days a week starting at 11 a.m. daily. Freshly made Southern cuisine with signature cocktails and lunch specials daily. The location for your next event with Simply Sonia's catering specials. Open now. Simply Sonia's Southern Cuisine and Cocktails, 3050 University Parkway, inside the Best Western Plus Hotel in Winston-Salem.
Find your next car at Auto Store of North Carolina in Walkertown. Their goal is to make car shopping and car buying experience fast, friendly, and easy. They have helped hundreds of customers get behind the wheel of a newer, reliable, quality used car, and they can help you too. Stop by and speak with one of their sales professionals today and drive away with your new car. The Auto Store of North Carolina, 4964 Reedsville Road in Walkertown. Give them a call at 336-595-8550 and view the current inventory of vehicles at autostoreofnc.com. Beamer Tire and Auto Repair, now with 3 locations across the Triad in High Point, Greensboro, and our new location in Kernersville. Beamer Tire and Auto offers full-service auto repair, all tire brands, free alignment checks, oil changes, and more. In Kernersville, check out the no appointment needed Quick Lube shop. Check out their thousands of 5-star ratings via Google and Yelp. They care because they know that you can go anywhere. So try a shop with a beating heart, not a bottom line. Beamer Tire and Auto Repair. Visit us on Facebook or at beamertire.com.
Blue Naples Pizzeria in Kernersville is now hiring. Come work for one of the best Italian restaurants in the Triad. Currently hiring dishwashers, cooks, front cashiers, and more. Great hours, great pay. Give them a call at 336-993-7707 or stop by and inquire at 1519 Union Cross Road in Kernersville. Start working this week. Blue Naples Pizza. Ideacom NC, a trusted telecommunications company with 60 years of experience in unified communications. Ideacom is about more than just phone systems. They provide a full range of communication solutions. Whether your business is big or small, from churches to schools to fire departments, depend on the best in cabling, phone systems, IT support, and more from Ideacom of Central North Carolina. Top-rated customer service that cares about your business needs. Check out all the host of solutions at IdeacomNC.com or call at 336-854-4455. Ideacom NC.
Back to the Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Welcome back into the Rundown here live every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, getting you ready for your sports weekend. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson. 2 hours every Saturday, WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. You can actually participate, interact with us on the show as we do it live. You can actually watch the show on Facebook. Watch Tobacco Road Sports Radio's Twitter account, YouTube account, LinkedIn, and more. So you can interact with us on social media, give us a hot take, ask us a question. We'll respond to it live on air for you as we go. The Carolina Panthers general manager Scott Fitterer addressed the media yesterday regarding the state of the franchise, and I wanted to get Kev on from the four-man rush, one of the great spots to go to get Carolina Panther information, analysis, tape, whatever you need. If you're a football junkie and if you're a fan of the Panthers in particular, definitely go follow them at the four-man rush on Twitter. That's 4 with the number 4. So it's 4 OUR man rush on Twitter. Kev, I came across your post online that kind of basically condensed what Scott Fitterer was talking about in this press conference. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions on some of the things that were in here, and me and Brandon will respond to those. Number one, you mentioned that Fitterer said that they were not actively pursuing any quarterback trades. Teams would have to contact them first, though, and none have lately. Is that for real? That teams have to contact them to trade Sam Darnold, or they can't call out to other teams to shop him around? Like, I didn't understand the wording of that.
Well, my take on it was more so the Panthers are not actively going out trying to trade for any quarterback versus us not contacting teams about trading for Sam Darnold. Let's be honest. If you're a general manager, what did you see that would make you want to trade for Sam Darnold?
Nothing.
Let's call it. Let's call it a spade.
I don't even want him on our team anymore. Like, I don't even want him here.
Right. I don't even want him on the bench holding a clipboard or the Gatorade. Like you seeing ghosts and stuff, man. Hell out of my field. But anyway, but now, if you were paying attention on Friday, I always did. A good friend of the four-man rush, Sheena Quick, she did a live on her IG, and she brought up the fact that she had heard from a Panther source, and I was able to confirm with one of mine that the Panthers have made an offer where they're willing to offer a player, a younger player per se, to get Darnold up off the books. And now, how much steam that may take, I don't know at this point. So if that is to be true, that does make me kind of worry. Like, okay, what player could we possibly part ways with to get rid of this, albatross of Sam Darnold and his $18.8 million salary cap? Because even though we still have about 29 after the restructuring of Robin Anderson and Christian McCaffrey, to free up that $18 million from Darnold would be immaculate, for the Panthers. So.
But it feels like there's no place to send him. Like at this point, like if you need a quarterback, you've kind of got it situated unless you're going to wait in the draft, which it's kind of starting to feel like that's what the Panthers are kind of aiming for with them kind of fixing the offensive line through free agency. Another thing that Fitterer mentioned that I was interested in, Matt Rule and Cam Newton recently had great conversations about where both sides are. It's a wait and see approach when it comes to if Cam Newton returns. Guys, should Cam Newton come back here? Like, Brandon, do you think Cam Newton should be back here in Carolina?
I mean, with the current QBs on the depth chart, it can't hurt anything. At least seats would be getting filled in Bank of America and BOA, because we all can tell, like, when Cam Newton is in the building, energy is completely different. Sundays feel completely different. And I'm not saying that we expect MVP or that he's going to take us to the playoffs. But this is a down year for the NFC, man. And, like, other than Tampa Bay, it feels like the NFC South is really up for grabs at this point, where that year, you remember when Carolina won it with, like, 9 wins or 8, and they were, like, 8-8.
Oh, no, yeah, they were 7-8-1.
All right, 7-8-1. This feels like one of those years where you could win 8 games and take the NFC South. So for that point alone, I think that it would be worth the squeeze. It would be worth the squeeze of the lemon right there for them to bring him back.
So Kev, he mentioned they're still looking to improve at quarterback, at left tackle, and a pass rusher. Did he just kind of show his cards for what they're looking for in the draft if something like that falls to them at 6?
I won't necessarily say show his hand. I mean, every team follows everybody else's. I mean, when you look at our team, there's no secret we struggled at quarterback. There's no secret we struggled at left tackle.
Everybody kind of knew what was in our living room.
Right. And with the loss of Hassan Reddick, which I'm not mad at him for, he took a 1-year deal and cashed a check and going back home, so there's obviously a need at a pass rusher. Now, he did get a kind of specific. He said, now that pass rusher can be in the form of a 5 technique, which would be more of a defensive end type, or it could be more of an edge, which would be suggesting like a stand-up outside linebacker type caliber player. So they're open to both because, as you know, the Panthers under Phil Snow, they run a hybrid defense. They run 40 fronts and they run 30 fronts as well. So I think that's why he was kind of putting out there that, hey, whatever pass rusher we can attain, we're going to be able to make use because, we run hybrid defensive fronts out of the set. And real quick, just to add on about the whole thing about Cam Newton, another thing that Sheena said, which I can definitely confirm as well, the Panthers do have a multi-year offer to Cam Newton if he does decide to come back. Now, my personal assumption, this is nothing I can confirm, I'm thinking it's the 2-year deal, which I'm thinking maybe it might be 1 year with the option or whatever the case may be, because, when Cam first came back, it was a multi-year option that was discussed then, but he decided to take the 1 year to get a little bit more guaranteed money up front here for it. So, and the fact that other teams have made offers to Cam, but Cam hasn't really liked it. I just think that the fact that Cam just waiting to see what type of moves we're going to do at quarterback, particularly in the draft moving forward to decide, because I would never bet against a healthy, fully motivated Cam Newton with a chip on his shoulder with an off season to get ready. He hasn't had that in the last, when was the last time Cam had a healthy off season?
Healthy?
So
2017, probably.
Like before the Steelers hit.
Yeah,
no, I'm thinking back before.
He got
hurt in 2017.
Yeah, I was going to say preseason 2017 is probably the last. Because actually, wasn't he coming off surgery?
Yeah, that's
from
when
the
he had
2016 season. Yeah,
because he ended the shoulder that December 2016 game against the Chargers at home when Kelvin Benjamin failed to track down the DB who intercepted, and Cam had to run him down at the 5-yard line. That was the injury. That was the injury that hurt Cam Newton's shoulder that he had to end up getting
the first surgery.
The rotated cuff surgery, and then he had a cleaning procedure to get rid of the scar tissue in January 2019 here, and then of course the Liz Frank surgery that he had back in the 2020 all season. So
it's been a minute. It's been a minute since. And plus, this is the perfect place to parachute him in because the whole offense is learning a new offense with Ben McAdoo being the offensive coordinator. Like they're all going to be learning something new. Like don't bring him in August. Like have him in the building like in April so he can actually acclimate to the playbook. I think Cam Newton fans get a bad rep because they all just want to see the dude play. Like for many, me included, he's probably one of my favorite football players of all time. We just want him to have a fair shot. Like we need to be able to determine if the dude can still play or not. And like, we can't determine it when Matt Rule is bringing him in for a play, taking him out, or not even like as soon as Sam Darnold's healthy, just basically benching Cam. And it's like, we can't tell if he's, over the hill or if it's a product of him getting parachuted into this team's quarterback room. When did he get to the, like in October?
It was November. I mean, he went from daddy daycare to starting quarterback in like a week or two. So,
and then we got confused because he went out there and looked like
offensive coordinators.
Two offensive coordinators during that stretch. They fire the offensive coordinator while he's there. So it's like we don't know what he is, and I do feel like we are owed that. We do need to find out for sure if this dude is done or not. And the fact that it seems like he's kind of waiting it out, I want to almost want to say he's kind of waiting out to see who they pick at quarterback because I know that you are very high, Kevin, on Malik Willis from Liberty. I'm there as well. I saw a little bit of his pro day. My man got a cannon. He got a cannon. I could see a scenario where they pick Willis at 6 and then sign Cam to that 2-year deal like you were talking about. And then he basically mentors him like for a year or so. I could see that being the case. Is that plausible? Is that something that could be done? Because everything else is set with the Panthers. They didn't have to give up any picks. They didn't get Deshaun. The defense is young on rookie contracts pretty much. The offensive line looks like it's been fixed. In theory, McCaffrey's going to be healthy. Like, it seems like it's setting up for them to be like a power run team that plays really good, stingy defense, and they control the trenches. That sounds like custom built for Cam Newton, don't it?
Right, because with Ben McAdoo, for those who are not familiar with him, his philosophy on offense philosophy is like a West Coast philosophy with him. So, that means the short and intermediate routes in particular. But yeah, as far as the whole thing with Malik Willis, I mean, look at it. Him and Cam went both to the same high school. He also went to Auburn. Now, because Auburn chose to go with Bo Nix, he went to Liberty and whatever. He was in Cam 7 on. He was in Cam 7 on 7.
So they know each other, right? Like
there's a familiarity with that. So I said it after once the draft hype started. I actually got a couple of bets out there. I said the Panthers are going to re-sign Cam Newton and draft Malik Willis. So I got a couple $100 and some dinners out there on that bet.
Hey, good luck, my man. Good luck.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much. I think that's what the wait and see is, because if Cam had a better offer from another team with a better situation, I think he would have gone by now. But I think it's like Fitter said, it's a wait and see approach right now, and I don't blame him because, like you said, with the moves that we made so far this offseason, which has been one of the better free agency offseason moves in a while. This kind of reminds me of the 2019 offseason, when we was making the good sign-ins, got the when we got like Jerry McCoy and all those players. Like, I really think that the additions that we've added, like you say, you drop in a quarterback room of Cam Newton, Malik Willis, because if we're going to be a power running team, that Matt Rule said, and the type of linemen that we not added to the offense, they're more power gap blocking scheme than zone blocking scheme, which is going to fit the power run game. You got a quarterback that still can, add some QB power, some QB design. Like, Ben McAdoo could really have a field day, with the quarterback room with those type of players. Because when you look at McAdoo's background on quarterbacks that he's spoke favorable on, like Josh Allen, he's preferred mobile quarterbacks that that can be on the go. So I just think that without tipping the hand what they're going to do, I just think that if Detroit don't mess it up at number 2, because they're rumored to be interested in them, and with the Giants having the 5th and 7th pick, there's rumors that they've been in position to want to trade back, because the Giants only has $2 million in cap space. So them trading back and getting players with extra picks definitely would fit their scheme, and they can still get their guy that they want at number 7. Particularly, I'm worried about the Steelers leapfrogging to that 5th spot, because Mike Tomlin, he's made a note they are in love, with Malik Willis, but currently they're like 20th. So Detroit, Giants, and the Steelers are my concern that would prevent Malik Willis from being a Panther at this moment.
Real quick,
I've been screaming Malik Willis for about 2 months, and we had this conversation, Des, when y'all were asking about it, man. Like, that kid is the goods. He's gonna be a star.
Real quick before we take another break here, I want to stay in the NFL while I got both you guys on. There's a lot of money flying around right now in the NFL. Standards have been set over the past 2 weeks when it comes to quarterback pay and wide receiver pay. First, the quarterback thing. I don't know if did we touch on this last week, Brandon? Had it happened yet with Deshaun Watson going to Cleveland for the amount that he's going for? I can't remember if it happened.
It just happened.
It just happened. So we just kind of started getting into it. $230 million. I did notice that I haven't checked back on it since, but didn't Deshaun Watson get another grand jury to they're thinking about charges or something. Did they drop that? I thought they dropped that too or something.
A second grand jury.
Yeah,
they said they couldn't find nothing. And also, shout out to the way his contract got structured.
Yeah,
it's only $1 million. So in an event that he is suspended or whatever,
in jail or just wherever, like unavailable,
he'll still have $229 million guaranteed. That's left.
Ooh, look, my wife is from her family's from Ohio and Cleveland and specifically. And I was talking to her yesterday, and I think something came on about Deshaun being sorry, that's my daughter walking around. About Deshaun and him going to the Browns. She was like, where did he end up going? I was like, Cleveland. She was like, Cleveland? Why did he pick there? I was like, $230 million guaranteed. And she was like, what? Like, the Cleveland people aren't gonna be happy about that. They had to pay for the stadium. So I don't know. And I've seen a couple people online that are from Cleveland that are kind of like, they're not too sure about how they feel about him coming in. But the other big thing that happened this week, Tyreek Hill. This kind of felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. Tyreek Hill getting traded to the Miami Dolphins. Is Kansas City in trouble? Because I feel like their window, and you've heard me say this before, Brandon, especially in the NFL, I feel like once you get to the Super Bowl, you have like a 3-4 year window where you have a good chance to get back. But once that window's over, it's over. I don't care who you are. Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, Dan Marino, whatever. If you go back and look for when they hit their Super Bowls, there's probably a 3-4 year stretch right there where they either got back or got close or won one or whatever it was. And then there's a drop off. Even Tom Brady. I mean, he had like a decade in between, Super Bowl appearances from those first 3 to where he's at now. Are we seeing the end of Kansas City? Because I feel like even though he was a 5th round draft pick, there's nobody in the league like Tyreek Hill. And I keep thinking of all those times he bailed Pat Mahomes out on like failed plays where Mahomes is just running back and forth around in the backfield. I could see it in my head. He's just running around. He's got 3-4 people chasing him. And then he just throws it 60 yards down the field. And somehow Tyreek Hill is underneath it and makes it look easy. That's gone now. They don't have anybody that can take the top off of defense like Tyreek Hill does. So are we seeing the end of Kansas City as they were presently constructed?
Well, I heard from a source out in Kansas City that Tyreek Hill went and wanted that Devontae Adams money, and they were like, nah, bro. And he got it elsewhere. But I think Kansas City, after NDSU just had their pro day, they got a lot of pros up here. So we were out at the pro day. There's a kid that's been rumored. He was supposed to be about a 4th round pick. Now he's a top 50 lot. Been rumored to the Chiefs. That's Christian Watson, 6'4", had a top 540, great bench press, great vertical jump. They've been rumored to be able to take him in the 30s in the draft this year. I think that if they do get their hands on Christian Watson, there won't be a crazy drop off with the 3 receivers that they have lined up now. I mean, you're talking about a kid that's 6'4", running a 4.3. Can you go up and get it? And he's the type of guy that I think will be a steal of the draft that has that potential athleticism and speed to be able to blow the top off of a defense.
Cav, your thoughts on Tyreek Hill going to Miami? Like Miami out here with the fastest wide receiving core in history, probably with him and Waddle. Like I don't even like it's wild to me how the AFC just loaded up like on like an arms race like in the past like couple of weeks because the AFC West is ridiculous. The AFC East has got Buffalo, New England, and now Miami making moves. I mean, it's wild. The AFC North's going to have Baltimore. The Bengals just went to the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh's going to be Pittsburgh. The Browns just got Deshaun Watson. So it's like I don't even know who's coming out of here. And like somebody's not going to make the playoffs. And I do feel like it could be the Chiefs. It could possibly be the Chiefs, which would be insanity. But what did Tyreek Hill going to Miami do to the AFC, in your opinion, Kev?
I think it just pretty much shifted the how can I say? I don't want to say the power, but the excitement around, because pretty much everybody's been all on the AFC and then also the AFC West, with Denver, Kansas City, Chargers, and the Raiders. Then the AFC North got involved. Like, hold up, let's do some things, with Deshaun Watson. Like I said, Bengals just coming off a Super Bowl. You can't discount a healthy Ravens team. My God, they had 200 players on IR last year. Baltimore can stay healthy. They definitely gonna have something to say not only in that division, but in the AFC. And then you got the AFC East, Buffalo, who was, overtime, decision away from possibly being a representative as well. This definitely gives Miami something that they haven't had in a long time. That's a legit shot to finally get back to the playoffs and actually do something with their other additions. Because, you got, I think that their coach, and I can't think of his name right now, I think he's trying to recreate that threesome that he had in the 49ers with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Kittle. Because, he has Mike Gesicki, who I was really high on when he came out. He's one of the fastest tight ends in the league. Now they got Waddle, and now they got Tyreek Hill. They gave them 5 draft picks like it was nothing. They still got draft picks. You know what I'm saying?
I was like, how in the world? I forgot they had gotten so many draft picks over the past couple of years. Like, how are you going to give up 5 picks for a wide receiver? Like, did y'all get Randy Moss? Like, what just happened? Like, this is crazy. And
yeah,
if you're Kansas City, you got to take that deal. Like, you got to take it.
And this was the perfect draft because the wide receiver talent is crazy in this draft. So Kansas City, if not picking, they're picking back-to-back 29th and 30th here. So they're talking about they could possibly position a move up to grab. When he's like, what's his name out of Ohio State, Oclave, something like that. There's rumors, that. So
one Alabama wide receivers, maybe.
It's Tyreek Hill, and then it's probably the next level below. That's the type of talent and capabilities that can be displayed coming out of this draft. So them getting 5 additional picks, Kansas City is going to be fine. They can, don't be surprised if they don't draft them 2 more wide receivers on top of the 2 free agents they just signed, Juju Smith-Schuster,
yeah,
and the one from Green Bay with the double last name. I can't think of it right now.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
My daughter, a Packer fan, she's been talking about it all the time. But yeah.
I mean, and keep in mind, too, folks, that Tyreek Hill was a 5th-round draft pick. So it's not like he was a high first-round, everybody knew about him type of dude. He kind of became Tyreek Hill once he got to the Chiefs and they started Pat Mahomes. So the question of who made who, did Pat Mahomes make Tyreek Hill? Did Tyreek Hill make Pat Mahomes? We're going to find out. Miami just dropped a bag, though, to go get him. So we will find out here soon.
Excuses. He got no excuses.
I mean, I know Bill Belichick's still in your division. I know the Bills are in your division. But, hey, you just gave up like multiple 1st-round picks. Like, this was a quarterback trade. Like, this looks like what the Panthers were offering for Deshaun Watson. Like they sent it off for Tyreek Hill. It's crazy to me. But
let me ask y'all real quick. Do y'all think Tua got the arm strength to take advantage of a Tyreek Hill and a Waddle? Because
absolutely not. I just don't see it.
I've seen the memes, picking, at Tua having the type of arm like. I saw one where they had a picture of Tyreek Hill on Antonio Brown and the Jets talking about this is Tyreek Hill after 4 games of 2 and not throwing him the ball deep. I mean, the internet is savage, and I was just wondering, does Tua have the arm to take advantage of what he's got?
I think so.
I don't know.
So, man. But it's also like with those guys, man, you get it to them quick, they gonna take it the rest.
You give them some space,
yeah. So, but I mean, Tua was going through some injuries. I don't think we've seen the best version of him yet. I think his best football's still ahead of him.
No excuse for Tua. Like, they literally have gone out and got you some of the best weapons in the NFL.
Also, the backfield too, man. Chase Edmonds from the Cardinals was a big pickup in my opinion.
And they got a stout defense. So I mean, Miami might be able to do something. We'll find out. Shout out to.
And did y'all see about Brady? The rumor talking about after he finished his contract and Brady that he might want to go to Miami next year. Did y'all see that one?
No.
Sports Illustrated.
No.
Sports Illustrated. Because Brady only signed a 2-year deal last year and this year, and it was saying that Brady's agents have already kind of peeped that
he'd go back to the AFC East. They have to play the Patriots twice a year.
Yes, so that's just something that just put out there. This wasn't some random. This was Sports Illustrated, so they were credible. It came out yesterday, and it kept saying Brady and the Dolphins. I'm like, huh? And it was just saying like after he does whatever with Tampa, he gonna slide on south another few hundred miles, and if Tua ain't.
He'll be 46. He'll be 46, and we're all sitting here like, no, don't go to Miami, don't make them a contender. I'm like he's about to be 46 years old though. Like
this quarterback with the fastest receiving core, man. It's a crazy combo.
Can you imagine Tom Brady with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill at age 46, and nobody can touch him because of the rules, basically. So he can just stand back there all day and just wait for them to run 50 yards down the field and just throw it to him.
Tua better get it together, man.
Seriously. Yeah, he better be on watch, because if the GOAT shows up in Miami, you might as well go ahead and pack up your bags. You're heading to Tampa, buddy. So I got to take another break. When I come back, quick interview with Sam Farber from the Charlotte Hornets Radio Network. The Hornets are fighting for their playoff lives. They're in the play-in game pretty comfortably, but they got a shot about 10 games to go to really move up the Eastern Conference standings. Can they get out of the play-in and get to the 6th seed? The Eastern Conference is a big jumble. We'll talk to Sam about that and who he thinks is the most important Hornet going forward. You're listening to The Rundown here on WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
The wait is over. Simply Sonia's Southern Cuisine and Cocktails is now open. 3050 University Parkway inside the Best Western Plus Hotel. Open 7 days a week starting at 11 a.m. daily. Freshly made Southern cuisine with signature cocktails and lunch specials daily. The location for your next event with Simply Sonia's catering specials. Open now. Simply Sonia's Southern Cuisine and Cocktails. 3050 University Parkway inside the Best Western Plus Hotel in Winston-Salem.
Maylor Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, located at 205 North Cherry Street in Kernersville, is your family chiropractor. Dr. Maylor's goal is to treat and correct the underlying cause of patient symptoms, to alleviate pain, and to restore balance. Maylor Chiropractic treats pain, sports injuries, injuries from auto accidents, and much more. Start performing to the best of your ability, pain-free. Give them a call and set your appointment today at 336-996-3737. Maylor Chiropractic in Kernersville.
Carolina Cobras.
If I take that field, if my game starts to slack, I have no fear. My brother got my gun.
Catch them all season long.
That's all we got. That's all we got.
On your home for Triad Sports.
Oh, are we ready? Are we ready?
TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Franchise players.
Welcome back. Sports Channel 8's Ben Swain. How you doing, man?
I love that you guys are doing what you're doing. I love that we're doing what we're doing, because the local sports fan is really underserved in sports radio here in North Carolina. Being able to, Monday morning after the New Carolina game, being able to listen to local guys talk about the local game.
Franchise players. Every Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com and at 6 p.m. on WCOG 1320 AM and WTOB 988. Area softball stars. Register for the Diamond Star Softball Transfer Portal Showcase June 14th and 15th at Bob Lewis Park in Asheville, North Carolina. This showcase is for any player currently in the transfer portal or any JUCO player. Get the opportunity to showcase your skills in front of college coaches from all levels. Over the 2-day event, players participate in evaluations such as softball skills and metrics by College Sports Evaluations, drill and team practice participation, and playing in 3 games. For more information, visit DiamondStarEvents.net or email Coach Ben McKinney at bmckinney@DiamondStarEvents.net.
Back to the Rundown with Desmond Johnson, powered by SportsCarolinaMonthly.com.
Welcome back into the Rundown here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. You can hear us every Saturday morning live across the Triad on WWBG 1470 AM. The Charlotte Hornets are barreling towards the 2022 NBA playoffs. Looks like they're going to be in the play-in game. And with us with a Hornets check-in, the voice of the Hornets Radio Network, Sam Farber, joining the broadcast. What's going on, Sam? How you doing?
Doing well, Desmond. Thanks for having me.
So it feels like when I'm watching the Hornets, it feels like it's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of thing. Like it feels like when they're off early. Like they dig big holes and then they have to spend a game to climb out of that big hole. What do you think causes the slow start sometimes when the Hornets, when they come out and they have like I don't want to call it low energy, but it feels like it's palpable. You can kind of feel it at the very beginning of the game when they're like that. But when they're on from like the very beginning. What do you think is the reasoning behind the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde Charlotte Hornets?
Well, I think inconsistency is usually a sign of a young team, and the Hornets still very much are at their core a very young team. So learning how to win, learning how to do it consistently. 82 games is a very long season. It's hard to be at the top of your game each and every day. That's what makes some of these all-time great teams like Michael Jordan's Bulls and the Warriors from a few years ago so special, is because it is so difficult to do. But that said, I think beyond that, the opposition making shots early is really a sign of this at times. It's one thing to get open looks at threes, but to knock them down with the kind of frequency the Knicks did the other day, for instance, that is a troubling sign, and that's not all entirely in the Hornets' control, but they can do a better job of making life difficult for some of those shooters. So the starts have been an issue at times. Fortunately for the team, they've been able to overcome that throughout the season for the most part, but still probably a couple of games that were lost in the first quarter rather than giving themselves an opportunity to come back late.
Now, you follow Sam on Twitter at Sam Farber Live. You're also the host of the Hornets Hivecast, and I noticed on the most recent episode you are talking about the Brooklyn Nets and the changes to New York City's mask policy. Primarily, star Kyrie Irving's been in the news all season long, hasn't taken the vaccine due to personal reasons. Because of that, he hasn't been able to play home games for the Brooklyn Nets. The New York City exempted athletes and performers this week from the vaccine, which means the first home game Irving's probably going to be able to play will be this weekend against our Hornets. How well do the Hornets match up against the Nets? Because it's crazy. Vegas has them with the best odds to win the NBA Finals, but they're probably coming in as an 8 seed, and they're kind of banged up. What do you think about the buzz around these Brooklyn Nets?
Well, on paper, no one matches up all that well against the Brooklyn Nets because, as you indicated there, a lot of people see them as a favorite despite their struggles throughout the season. I think there's no question it helps Brooklyn to have Kyrie Irving available to play home and road. That's just a fact. But that said, as you kind of indicated, Brooklyn has been far from the kind of team that they aspired to be or were projected to be, even when they've had both Kyrie and Kevin Durant on the floor. I think going into the announcement, they were something like 5-3 with those two playing together. So not a lot of games where they've had the opportunity to, and certainly no real chance to build any rhythm because you play a game on the road, they could play together. Play a game at home, they can't. There's been injuries to both players. So we'll see what happens as they develop some consistency with one another, but that will not have happened at the point when the Hornets visit them in Brooklyn. And furthermore, the Nets will be on night 2 of a back-to-back. So I don't know if Sunday's result is going to dictate what might happen if they were to meet in, let's say, a play-in tournament game. But I think even with this new change to who's available for the game, there are still advantages there for the Hornets that they can take advantage of and come away with the win.
Now, there's about 8 games left in the regular season. The Hornets are basically locked into the play-in games with it. As it stands, it looks like Toronto, Brooklyn, and Atlanta. Are you a fan of the play-in format with it being, I guess this is year 2 of it happening, with it basically taking, for those that aren't aware, it's the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seeds in both respective conferences basically play like a play-in tournament to determine who are going to be the 7th and 8th seeds going forward. Then they get into the regular playoffs. So I guess you could say it is the playoffs, but it's technically like an extension of it that they pulled out last year. And last year, I think we were kind of blinded by it because in the play-in game, we had LeBron James and the Lakers against Steph Curry and the Warriors. So it kind of changed our perception of what it would be going forward. This year, it looks like you're going to have the Brooklyn Nets in there. So you're going to have some star power, as well as young teams like the Hornets and the Hawks. Are you a fan of the play-in, or would you rather it be the traditional 8 seed, 1 versus 8 type of thing? Because it kind of puts the 7th and 8th seeds in a little bit of a different situation than they would have been previously.
Oh, it's a very different situation. And for the record, this is an odd year for the Eastern Conference. Last year, with the same win percentage that the Hornets hold right now, they would have been the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Scale it back 1 year to the bubble year, the last time there was not a play-in tournament. Charlotte would have been the 7th seed. They'd be automatically into the bracket because there was no play-in. But even if there was, they'd be at the top of the play-in. So That's a little bit of bad luck there for the Hornets. To answer your question, I love the play-in tournament. I think it's just fantastic. I think it forces teams to compete longer, whether that is to get into the postseason period via the 9 and 10 spots for the play-in tournament, or to compete for the opportunity to only have to win 1 out of 2 games to make it by being in the 7-8 game. Home court advantage is at stake with every line you move up on any of those. And then, 6th place versus 7th place becomes that much more important. So where in the old format, I think you really were only competing and maybe working hard all the way through the finish line to finish 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 8th. Everything else didn't matter quite as much. Now there is, outside of the difference between finishing 3rd and 4th or 5th and 6th, every position has a lot riding on it. So it forces teams like the Hornets, for instance, to work hard all the way down the stretch. Similarly for the Hawks, it's kept the Knicks and the Wizards in it a lot longer than they otherwise would have been. And it forces teams that are even higher up the ladder right now in the Eastern Conference, like Cleveland and Chicago and Boston, to continue to fight and push towards the finish line.
With us right now, Hornets play-by-play man from the Hornets Radio Network, Sam Farber. Follow him on Twitter at Sam Farber Live. The addition of little man Isaiah Thomas to this team, it feels like it's been a blessing in disguise. How big of a boost has Isaiah Thomas been to this roster?
He's been great. I think the expectation was he would certainly help out in the locker room and that he could be your emergency point guard if the case arose that you're either up big or down big late, or if you were in a situation where you had your star point guard, LaMelo Ball, in foul trouble. And his first game with the team, I think less than 12 hours after being signed, 6 hours after meeting his teammates, LaMelo Ball got into foul trouble in when Isaiah Thomas, and he instantly steadied things and helped the Hornets get a big W on the road at Cleveland. So I don't know that the role he has played on the court was anywhere near anticipated, but it's very much appreciated what he's been able to bring to this team, and that leadership component is so valuable. Furthermore, I think that the signal it sent to the locker room, to the fan base from the front office that we want to win now and we're going to give you the tools to do it, that rang loud and clear. It would have been very easy for the team to say, we need an emergency point guard. Let's pick some rookie out of the G League and just plug him in there. And that person's cheaper. We don't have to worry about giving up any, future assets or anything like that. It's just, fill him in, we'll take a flyer on him. But they went with Isaiah Thomas, a 2-time All-Star. And so I think that says a lot about what the front office expects and wants to deliver here for this team.
Any updates or news on Gordon Hayward? It feels like life is easier whenever we have Gordon Hayward on the floor. Unfortunately, we've had large pockets where we haven't been able to have him. Eerily similar to last year where he had to basically miss the end of the season with a foot injury. But from my understanding, this one's a little bit different, that he's planning on coming back before the season is over. Have you heard any word on Gordon Hayward and his possible return?
It's still very much what you said there, that the plan is for him to return, that the timetable seems to be lining up for that to be a possibility. We still have, I think, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks left in the season, somewhere in that neighborhood. So there is time for him to make it back. It is true that he's had some significant pockets missed, but just for the record, it's not as much as you would think when you compare him to other star players. Gordon Hayward, in his time with the Hornets the last 2 seasons, has played more games than Anthony Davis has for the Lakers, Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving have played for Brooklyn, and roughly on par within 10, 15 games tops of LeBron James, Joel Embiid, and James Harden. So, yes, the timing of these injuries has not been good. Everyone wants Gordon out there for the postseason, and there still seems to be a likelihood he will be there. And this Hornets team, when they have them, are well above 500 and have shown a capability to beat some really good teams. So I think their hopes of not just making the play-in or running the play-in, but making the playoffs become a lot better when Gordon gets back to full strength. But I think, some of this narrative that, he's injury prone, like the timing of it has been unfortunate. But you look at how many games he's played compared to, again, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward has played in more.
That's a very good point. How would you grade the Hornets this season? Because it feels like I think a lot of the fan base they're super excited at the beginning of the year. Hornets win a lot of games. Hornets had a little bit of a lull. They've kind of settled into basically a 500 type team this season. And to be honest, that was kind of the expectations for them going into the season. I think our expectations just got raised because we saw certain players kind of elevate their games, like LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier and others that have just kind of feels like they've taken an extra step. Miles Bridges is a perfect example of a player that feels like they're just playing at a different level than they were, say, 12 months ago. Would you say this Hornets team is above expectations, below expectations, or spot on from the beginning of the year?
I think it's pretty well. It depends whose expectations you're talking about, to be fair here. If you are looking at, this year's team based off preseason win projections from most national media, outlets, the Hornets are way over expectations. Most of them had them around, somewhere in the mid 30s for total wins. Hornets are there with, half dozen games to spare. So, in theory, they should get closer to 40. So, they've exceeded expectations. And I think it's important to look at win totals versus spot in the standings for what we were talking about earlier, because most years this record, this win percentage that the Hornets hold right now would easily be in the top 8. It just so happens the East is a lot deeper this year. And so that's hurt the Hornets in terms of their standings. But in terms of the job that James Borrego and his staff and these players have done, I think they deserve to be applauded. And, the bad luck that 10 teams have a shot to end the season 500 or better in the East shouldn't be held against the Hornets because they are heading in the right direction. They're doing so with a 20-year-old point guard who is just getting better and better with time, and presumably will be ready to hopefully make an even bigger run next year.
And then finally, Sam, who do you think is the most important Hornet player going forward as we get to the end of this season and head into these playoff play-in games and hopefully the playoffs for the Hornets? As you scan the roster and you're with them every evening watching these games, who would you project going forward is going to be the most important Hornet going forward for the team this year?
Oh, that's a really tough one. I think if you're talking about where the ceiling of this team is now, how far could they go? Could they win a playoff series, for instance? I think Gordon Hayward is the key to that question. He's such an efficient player. He's such a steadying influence out there on the floor. I think he could make the difference and give the Hornets their best opportunity to make that run. So his health seems to be first and foremost. But in terms of just overall level of play, this is gone from LaMelo Ball maybe being the axle or the wheel on the bus to the guy driving it. He's just grown so much more as a player, and it has gone from being one of the many great cogs in the machine here for the Hornets to the one running the show. And we see that throughout the game. We see it in end-of-game situations. The team really trusts him to make the right decision because he's such an unselfish player, and he is looking for his teammates. He's not one who's just going to, jack up a three just to do it. His first instinct is to pass and find the open man, and that just makes everyone better. So I think in terms of how far can this team go, the question is, can they get Gordon Hayward back up to full speed and get this team back to the level of play they had before he was injured, which was significantly above 500, or regardless of whether he's there or not, their ability to win any one individual game, I think is really locked into LaMelo.
There you have it. For all things Hornets, follow him on Twitter at Sam Farber Live. Hornets face the Brooklyn Nets this Sunday evening. You can catch that on the Hornets Radio Network. Sam, always great having you check in with the Hornets news and updates, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you here in a couple of weeks as we get deeper into playoff talk in April.
I certainly hope we're playing in it, but it's always great to talk to you, Desmond, and thanks for having me again.
Coming up, more from the Rundown here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com and WWBG 1470 AM.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson, powered by SportsCarolinaMonthly.com.
Kim Source Direct is a single source supplier. In business since 2007, they have over 80,000 products for customers just like you. Located in the heart of North Carolina, they supply cleaning products all throughout the Southeast. Whether you're a commercial business, office, or municipal building, looking for wholesale cleaning products, chemicals, cleaning equipment, or service, they've got you covered. Please reach out and start saving money today. Stop by their store open to the public and save. Kim Source Direct, 1207 South Park Drive in Kernersville. Give them a call at 336-515-9990. Order from the website at kimsourcedirect.com. We love sports.
Joe Louis, the greatest boxer ever lived.
Not only do we love sports, but we love to debate sports.
He was bad in Jack Clay. He bad in Sugar Ray. He bad in who that the new boy has? Mike Tyson look like a bulldog. He bad at him.
for the best sports analysis in the Triad.
What about Rocky Marciano?
In-depth local coverage of your favorite schools and teams.
Let me tell you something. One fall, Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Lewis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
And of course, the best sports debate in the Triad.
It's Joe Lewis's ass.
Welcome to Tobacco Road Sports Radio.
Joe Lewis was 75 years old when he fought.
You're welcome.
I don't know how old he was, but got it.
Blue Naples Pizzeria in Kernersville is now hiring. Come work for one of the best Italian restaurants in the Triad. Currently hiring dishwashers, cooks, front cashiers, and more. Great hours, great pay. Give them a call at 336-993-7707 or stop by and inquire at 1519 Union Cross Road in Kernersville. Start working this week. Blue Naples Pizza.
Back to the rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Welcome back into the rundown here on WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. Shout out to everyone that's been checking in with us on this beautiful Saturday morning here in the Triad of North Carolina. Lot to still get into here as we get through the last bit of hour number 2 of the rundown. You can find this episode and others on our YouTube channel. Just search Tobacco Road Sports Radio or go to sportscarolinamonthly.com and hit the podcast section. You can find this episode and previous episodes there. Joining me for hour number 2, he is the host of the Frankly Speaking Sports Show. You can catch it Tuesday through Thursdays at 11 a.m. on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Mr. Larry Frank in the house. What's going on, Larry? Oh, I think I got you muted there. I'm sorry, bud. There you go. What's going on, Larry?
How you doing, buddy?
Man, we got a lot to talk about. I wanted to pick your brain on the Elite Eight because I know you're a huge basketball fan. Your thoughts on first, let's start off with last night. Something we didn't get a chance to get to it in hour number 1, but the ACC had been considered down this year, yet we're in the Elite Eight round, and 3 of the 8 teams in the Elite Eight are in the ACC. We talked about Carolina, we talked about Duke. Miami beat Iowa State last night to get to their first Elite Eight in program history. What are your thoughts on this Miami team out of the ACC that actually finished 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, in the standings? It was Duke, Carolina, Miami, Notre Dame, who won 2 games in this tournament themselves, and then Wake Forest, who probably should have got in now that we're looking at how the ACC is performing at the top there, and Wake had beat some of those teams. What's your thoughts on Miami advancing to the Elite Eight?
I picked them to go there, and I picked them to beat Iowa State, and the reason being, and I've mentioned this many times, is they have unbelievable guards on that team. They play a 4-guard offense where each guard, led by McGusky, led by Wong, but these guys are good. They're very good basketball players, and they don't, as guards, they rebound. So they're a very, very good team, very, very fast team. And last night it proved in that Iowa State game as they defeated Iowa State, as you know.
Yeah, I've been a pretty good fan of this, or a big fan of this Miami team, the makeup of it, really since I saw them beat up North Carolina earlier in the year. That 3-guard combo they've got running right now is really hard to defend. It's kind of like what St. Peter's is doing over on that side. Talk to me a little bit about the St. Peter's Peacocks on National Peacock Day, becoming the first 15 seed to ever make it to the Elite Eight. And they did it rather convincingly in terms of they didn't look out of place. Like the entire time I watched that game, they looked like they belong there.
Another pick that I had was St. Peter's, and people asked me why. This team is aggressive. Did you see the press they were playing last night that really confused? I mean, it made Purdue just get out of rhythm. And St. Pete, one thing they did is, I love Edert, the spark that he adds to that team when he comes in there. And this is a team that is scary. There's nothing scarier than a team that has nothing to lose. They already accomplished more than they or anyone could have ever imagined. And I don't think they're done. I think they'll win again this round. I mean, I think you can see St. Peter's, going to the Final Four.
That's a great segue because in hour 1, the main question was, do we really want to see a Duke Carolina Final Four? If I ask Carolina fans, Duke fans, it's kind of weird this year. Carolina fans were good because they're like, well, our last game we played you guys in Cameron, we beat you, we ruined K's retirement thing. We're good going off on that note. We don't necessarily need to see you guys again. The Duke fans I see, though, actually want this to happen because of that sour taste in their mouth from losing to Carolina in Cameron in the last regular season game. They want Armageddon to happen. They want Duke Carolina in the Final Four. I guess if it happens, I guess at least it would be in the Final Four, not the national championship, because that would be something rivalry-wise. I don't really know how we would be able to get back from that. One of them beat the other for the national championship. That's a little different than beating each other in the Final Four. But both teams are one win away from doing this. Today we'll find out if half of this can even happen. Duke taking on Arkansas in the night game tonight. It's a 8:49 tip on TBS. Both of these games actually are on TBS tonight. Houston, the 5 seed, taking on 2 seed Villanova. 6:09 tip. That's also on TBS. So that's the beginning game. But we're going to focus on Duke and Arkansas with this being the rundown here in the Triad. What are your initial thoughts on this matchup, Larry? Because to me, Arkansas kind of feels like a similar version of Texas Tech, who Duke just dispatched on Thursday night.
I think the key to Arkansas winning, and I said this would have to happen last game, was Tony coming out and really playing, because you didn't know what type of game. He was a beast in this game for Arkansas. And, they got, Note as well. But, this game, this is a tough game to pick because Duke, I think Arkansas is wearing out its welcome. I think Coach K is going to move on. I like the team they have here, with Wendell Moore, with, Bonchero. The key is going to be that they just need to take, don't rush their shots and play disciplined basketball, play Coach K type basketball, and they will win. They make a high percentage of their shots. They love hitting on the inside. They can hit the three-pointer when they have to, but this is a team that is more consistent scoring 2 points rather than scoring 3 points. And that's why their percentage in shooting field goals is so high, because they take, those shots that are makeable, not those shots that scared me last night when I watched this Carolina game and you see RJ Davis running up and taking a three-pointer. It looked like from half court. That's uncontrollable. You can't have that. But I think this Duke team could move on. Arkansas is great. I'm going to actually tell people out there, Arkansas is my team to go to the championship. I picked them. So right now I've been kind of lucky throughout, but something about this Duke team, they had that extra incentive this year to win because of Coach K, and I don't think it's going to end.
It does feel like, at least over really since the Carolina loss, really, where it feels like slowly over the past 2 weeks, Duke is kind of starting to find themselves, in particular on defense, because up until the opening round of this tournament, the last 6 games Duke played were the worst 6 games of the season for them in terms of defensive efficiency. So they were trending in the wrong direction. And for them to figure it out and turn it around, I mentioned to the fellas in hour 1, for me watching that Duke Texas Tech game, the moment I realized that this Duke team might be built to go a little further than I expected was when they slapped the floor in the second half. Like, you don't just do that as a Duke player. You don't get to just slap the floor because you have a jersey on. Like, it's almost like a badge of honor. Like with them, like you have to earn it. Like you have to do something to justify slapping the floor. And at that point, Duke had gone on a little defensive run. I think Paulo had just had a steal. They went to the huddle. And shout out to Brendan Marks from The Athletic. I might try to grab him this week also. He's a friend of the program and been on multiple times. He's the beat writer for Duke and Carolina for The Athletic. And he wrote a really good article. You can find it, the links for it on Twitter if you go to his handle, Brendan R. Marks, where he's writing in real time the timeout that Duke took in the second half against Texas Tech, where they were walking out of the huddle and Kay called them back and was like, touch the floor. And like they all touched the floor together, including himself. And then about a minute or so later in the actual game, they actually slapped the floor. So it's like, it's one of those things where once Kay tells you it's okay to do it, you've done something to, in his eyes, to be worthy of doing it. And that makes me nervous as a Carolina fan, because when a Duke team starts to feel themselves like that,
Right.
Now all bets are off. I have no idea like what the ceiling is for this team because they already had more talent than everybody left in the tournament anyway. So
well, look at this team. Jeremy Roach was unbelievable in this game. Unbelievable. We know about Mark Williams and the importance he adds to this team, but you can just see it as they were winning and as the game was, sort of in hand and coming to the end. You see Coach K go crazy. You see the emotion in this man still has it that he wants to go. What better way if you're a college basketball fan? Once St. Peter's, if they end up going out, I think the world could be rooting for Duke and Coach K because it's his last hurrah.
I can't imagine a world doing that. I can't imagine the world.
Well, not North Carolina fans, but
I can't imagine a world where we're all rooting for Coach K to get it done. I don't know. It's strange. I'll admit to you, Larry, and the entire triad listening right now on WWBG and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. There was a stretch in that game last night that Carolina was in where I let my mind wander to, you know what? Sweet 16 is not a bad, Hubert first year coach. We don't go any further than this. I'm cool with it. Because in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, Duke won yesterday. Duke's only one game away from the Final Four. If we get past this team tonight, we have to play a 15 seed to get to the Final Four. Like it felt like I was making excuses in my mind if Carolina lost last night to kind of make me feel better about it. But by the time the game was over, of course, I'm rooting for Carolina. We're moving on to the Elite Eight. Shout out to Hubert Davis, who caught a lot of flack at the beginning of the year from Carolina Nation. There was a large contingent of people who thought Wes Miller should have been the head coaching selection. I've been in Hubert's camp literally for the past 7 years. Like I felt like that's why he came back from a cushy job at ESPN College Game Day. He decided to leave that job, pack up, move back to Chapel Hill with his wife with no guarantee he was going to be a coach or anything, to be an assistant coach under Roy Williams and just come back home. He coached the JV. He helped with the recruiting. And when I saw him come back, it was a couple of years ago when I was doing Rundown on another station, I was adamant that Hubert Davis was going to be Roy Williams' replacement. And I remember getting laughed at on air by multiple people. Like, there's no way. Hubert Davis doesn't have any experience. How's he going to do? Look at us now. Look at us now. Hubert's in the Elite Eight. This team has changed in the past 2 or 3 weeks. Like I have probably never seen a Carolina team change in season in terms of understanding their role and the guard play. RJ Davis and Caleb Love, the past 2 games in particular, has been outstanding. Usually it's one or the other that kind of has a good game.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, it's really rare when they're both
last night. 30 points last night, but RJ Davis wasn't there. The game before, Caleb Love wasn't there. It was RJ Davis. The great thing about this is, imagine if they ever both got going in the same game.
It's only happened a couple times this year, and when it has happened, they've looked almost unbeatable because you can't guard them both. And you've got Armando Bacot in the paint on on top of it. He's going to get his double-double.
And don't
so
forget
it's like
Manic.
Manic
was a
shooting
beast
40%.
on the boards last night. He was
Manic's good, man. I like Brady Manic.
He took some weird shots. He wasn't hot, and he realized he wasn't hot, and he started dishing the ball off to Love, Love could have made it from outside the arena last night into the basket. He had one stretch there where he just couldn't miss.
He got in that Steph Curry range, really. A couple of those were like right on the logo type threes where at first I'm always like, no. And then once I realize he's hot, then I start looking for him to start shooting. And I could tell about halfway through that second half where he was like, you know what, we ain't going out like this. And he always plays like that. Caleb Love gets a lot of finger pointing from the fan base also, because a lot of times he'll play like that and it doesn't look like what we saw last night. It'll be him going 3 for 12 or something like that. And he almost gets the blame for shooting Carolina out of games. But that mentality is what won them that game last night and sent them to the Elite Eight, because he just kept shooting. He had a horrible first half and just kept shooting and got hot, and apparently changed his shoes at halftime. And apparently that had something to do with it too. Put on some baby blue Jordans, and lo and behold, 30 points later, Carolina's going to the Final Four, or excuse me, the Elite Eight.
And you mentioned it, Desmond. Give Hubert Davis credit, and I'll tell you why. All year, probably to the 3/4 mark of the year, right before they got on that little rhythm down towards the end of the season, everybody gave him junk. Hubert Davis, is he the right guy? Isn't he the right guy? His system's not working. Give him credit for sticking to what he believes in, because there could have been a lot of coaches that have been affected by that, not Hubert Davis. And I've always been a Davis fan because I'm a Knicks fan growing up, and he played for the Knicks. So, but when you look at this guy, the thing I give him credit for is, and the great coaches do this, it takes time to implement the game plan. And these guys got the rhythm and got the understanding of that system and how it works, and got to see what the success is of using the system at the right time. The hottest team going in, right? And look what they are doing right now in the tournament. But hey, I want to tell you, and I think everybody knows it, this is not an easy game coming up for St. Peter's.
You mentioned earlier in this segment, I thought I heard you say you were picking St. Peter's to get to the Final Four. Does that mean you're picking them to beat Carolina?
It's so tough to not pick them because they've been winning. Look who they've beaten to get here.
I know.
And the only thing that scares me about Carolina, and you being a Carolina fan, you'll understand this, is which Carolina team is going to show up. If the team that shows up where Love is scoring 30 points, Manic is a beast, Banchero is hitting, it's going to be tough to beat North Carolina. But for St. Peter's, you have a team that has been told all throughout this tournament that it's going to be tough to beat everyone, and look what they have done. It's going to, I don't know, I think at the beginning, the thing that's going to kill St. Peter's, they're not a very good foul shooting team, and in a close game, you got to hit, you got to hit your free throws. But at the end of the day, they got that E-Dirt guy that I love off the bench. They got a scrappy team that doesn't understand. The worst thing you can do is take a team like St. Peter's and give them confidence, because they don't understand. They're so far in over where they expected to be. They don't believe in losing right now. And that's more dangerous than a Villanova team or a Kansas team or one of these teams, because they don't have pressure on them to win. Carolina has the pressure on them to win.
And yeah, I do feel that, where St. Peter's is playing really loose. Although in this game, I would imagine Carolina is going to probably have more pressure on them to beat the squad, because in theory, they should beat them. St. Peter's didn't even win their conference. Iona did. They won the conference tournament to get into the big dance. So they've been playing with gasoline for the past 3 weeks now, really. And I think people have been waiting for the flame to run out.
It's not.
I don't know if it will or won't, to be honest. There's nothing to indicate it will. They're playing with more confidence than any team left in this field, probably, except for maybe Arkansas. Arkansas's got a little bit of that dog in them too, where it feels like they're playing a level above the level of where they should be. Like they've figured out a way to get it up an extra gear and advance it through the tournament.
And you know what? They'll go down 5 points and it doesn't even bother them. They come right back. And the next thing you know, they go on a 6-0, 7-0 run. And let's give credit to their coach. I mean, they're coached by a great, great guy. And the thing I love about their coach is, if you listen to him do interviews, Desmond, he sounds really soft-spoken. But on the court, if you watch him, he is intense. And those players love playing for him.
I saw the very end when CBS was trying to interview him and his team ran over and kind of hijacked the interview. But you could just feel the emotion from them and him just being doubted this whole time. And for them to be able to kind of shove it in the face of everybody every time they go out there, it's got to be a great feeling for St. Peter's, Holloway, all of them. So we're going to find out, because this train ain't stopping. This is about to start again tonight at 6 o'clock, the Elite Eight. With Houston, Villanova, 6:09 p.m. and then the nightcap at 8:49. So really probably about 9:30. Arkansas and Duke will tip off. The winners of these two games will go on to play in the Final Four. Let's take another break. When we come back, I wanted to make sure I had Larry on for this conversation, because speaking of Duke, this is Coach K's last ride, so to speak. And it feels like the term greatest of all time has just been bestowed upon him because of him retiring. And yes, he has over 1,200 wins and all this good stuff. But I wanted to really sit down and figure this out. Who is the greatest college basketball coach of all time? I think there's some other parameters we need to consider.
before we just crown Coach K the GOAT because he has more wins than everybody else. We'll get into that. Me and Larry, we'll try to figure this out. If you have a opinion on this, you can actually interact with us on Facebook right now. Just go to the video, type in who you think the greatest college basketball coach of all time is and why. We'll address that here on the air, but we'll be back in just a bit. WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. You are locked and loaded with the rundown.
You're listening to The Rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Beamer Tire and Auto Repair, now with 3 locations across the Triad in High Point, Greensboro, and our new location in Kernersville. Beamer Tire and Auto offers full-service auto repair, all tire brands, free alignment checks, oil changes, and more. In Kernersville, check out the no appointment needed Quick Lube shop. Check out their thousands of 5-star ratings via Google and Yelp. They care because they know that you can go anywhere. So try a shop with a beating heart, not a bottom line. Beamer Tire and Auto Repair. Visit us on Facebook or at beamertire.com.
Area softball stars. Register for the Diamond Star Softball Transfer Portal Showcase June 14th and 15th at Bob Lewis Park in Asheville, North Carolina. This showcase is for any player currently in the transfer portal or any JUCO player. Get the opportunity to showcase your skills in front of college coaches from all levels. Over the 2-day event, players participate in evaluations such as softball skills and metrics by College Sports Evaluations, drill and team practice participation, and playing in 3 games. For more information, visit DiamondStarEvents.net or email Coach Ben McKinney at bmckinney@DiamondStarEvents.net.
Find your next car at Auto Store of North Carolina in Walkertown. Their goal is to make car shopping and car buying experience fast, friendly, and easy. They have helped hundreds of customers get behind the wheel of a newer, reliable, quality used car, and they could help you too. Stop by and speak with one of their sales professionals today and drive away with your new car. The Auto Store of North Carolina, 4964 Reedsville Road in Walkertown. Give them a call at 336-595-8550 and view the current inventory of vehicles at autostoreofnc.com.
Franchise players.
Welcome back. Sports Channel 8's Ben Swain. How you doing, man?
I love that you guys are doing what you're doing. I love that we're doing what we're doing because the local sports fan is really underserved in sports radio here in North Carolina. Being able to, Monday morning after the New Carolina game, being able to listen to local guys talk about the local game.
Franchise players. Every Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com and at 6 p.m. on WCOG 1320 AM and WTOB 988. ChemSource Direct is a single source supplier. In business since 2007, they have over 80,000 products for customers just like you. Located in the heart of North Carolina, they supply cleaning products all throughout the Southeast. Whether you're a commercial business, office, or municipal building, looking for wholesale cleaning products, chemicals, cleaning equipment, or service, they've got you covered. Please reach out and start saving money today. Stop by their store open to the public and save. ChemSource Direct, 1207 South Park Drive in Kernersville. Give them a call at 336-515-9990. Order from the website at chemsourcedirect.com.
You deserve to get good service and great rates. At State Farm, we get it. And we're here to help because with every State Farm policy, you get good neighbor service and you get surprisingly great rates. So what are you waiting for? Get going and talk to a local State Farm agent about your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to State Farm underwriting requirements.
When you want the real deal, call State Farm agent Susanna Nunn in Kernersville today.
Back to the rundown with Desmond Johnson.
Welcome back into the rundown here on WWBG 1470 AM. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful Saturday morning here in the Triad. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by the host of Frankly Speaking Sports, Larry Frank. You can follow him on Twitter at LarryFrankUS. Frankly Speaking Sports, Tuesday through Thursdays at 11 a.m. on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. He brings on a lot of nationally well-known guests, good sports talk in the morning, based here in the state of North Carolina. So definitely check him out here on TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. One of the things that wouldn't say it bothers me, but one of the conversations that's been going on now, kind of unabated for the past couple of years, is that Coach K is the greatest college basketball coach of all time. And I think back on it, to me, Larry, there are parallels between Coach K being called the greatest of all time and LeBron James being called the greatest of all time. And for me, it's based on how do you define GOAT? For me, I define GOAT as what were you at your peak compared to your contemporaries? Like how far away were you in terms of how good you were in the time period that you were doing whatever you were doing in compared to everyone else that's with you in that era, as opposed to what some people do, which is just how good were you for how long of a period of time. And for me, I think the Coach K LeBron parallels actually match up here because Coach K has most all-time wins in NCAA history, just crossed over 1,200 the other day, which is insane when you think about it. To do that, you'd have to average 30 win seasons for 40 years to even get in the neighborhood of where K is. So that's remarkable in itself. LeBron, when he's done, it'll be number one in points, rebounds, a number of different statistical categories because he'll played close to 20 years at that point. But a lot of people consider Michael Jordan the GOAT because of his peak. Like at his peak of Jordan's career, he was so much better than everyone currently playing and before him that it's hard for people to fathom someone being better at that peak. And I think that's the pushback that LeBron gets when he tries to say he's the greatest. His peak isn't as high as what Jordan's peak was. I guess it's the best way to put it. So circling us back around to this coach conversation, K, where would you say K's peak was? That can help us with the argument to begin with, because I'm looking at kind of 91 to 2001. Probably that decade was his peak. Would you agree with that, or is there another part of this 42-year journey that you say would be a stronger peak period for K?
No, I think you hit it right on the nose. I mean, there was a stretch. Now, you could honestly say there was a stretch where at that particular time, Coach K may have been the best coach. But if you look at the overall, like you said, the entire career of Coach K, I don't think the greatest coach ever. I don't think the debate here is who's the greatest coach. I think the debate here is who's the second greatest coach ever, because there's no doubt about who's the first great coach is, and that's John Wooden of UCLA. No doubt about it. You win 7 championships in a row, 10 overall. There is nobody close to John Wooden. So
that'll never happen again. We'll never see a school win 7 national championships in basketball ever again.
But I think Coach K is definitely up there in probably the top 5 to 10 coaches. But there's so many good coaches out there that had. I mean, your team, North Carolina, had Roy Williams, right?
I mean, really, I think we got
Dean
2 of the 5.
also back there.
Yeah.
Remember
I think we have 2 of the 5, Dean and Roy.
Right. So, I mean, when you look at great coaches, like you said, first of all, I judge great coaches differently than a lot of people. Wins is important. You can't take that away from Coach K. But, if you coach 40 years compared to somebody coaching 30 years, you're probably going to have more wins than them because the numbers are just going to fall in line. Number 2, I don't care how many games you win during the season. What are you doing when it counts in the tournament? And how many tournaments have you brought your team to? Number 3, how many of your coaches went on to be other coaches in the NCAA? Because a great coach just doesn't win. He develops people and trains people to go on to do the job they do. Can you look at Coach K and how many people? And he's done some. He's going to do another one when he retires because he's on the bench right now. But when his legacy is all said and done, could you rate him as one of the top coaches to promote his coaches?
I'm thinking of the guys that are out there. Tommy Amaker, Chris Collins, Bobby Hurley, Mike Bray working on his squad. He coached Notre Dame. Trying to think John Shire is going to take over here.
Right.
Johnny Dawkins down in Florida, Central Florida, FIU. I can't remember which one it is.
Well, how successful have those coaches?
Not very successful. Yeah,
right.
now that I'm thinking about it.
Desmond.
Yeah, so except for Bray, I guess you could say Bray's had some success at Notre Dame. Hurley's had some success, not to the same level, like nothing like K taking on his mentor Bob Knight in a Final Four. Like that's, I see where you're going. Like he hasn't had anything like that I can immediately recall. If we're wrong, correct us, social media. If there's a situation where there's a coach out there we're forgetting that's from the K coaching tree, feel free to let us know. But I agree with you there. Although you can say that for a lot of these coaches that are on this list.
Yeah, but also ask yourself this, Desmond. There's a difference, and you'll understand this more than anyone. You're a big basketball fan, especially college. There's a difference between being a great coach and being a great recruiter.
Ooh.
Okay? And that's where people get confused. There's a lot of people, and I'm not discrediting Coach K, but that will come to Duke and play because of the history of Coach K. But that doesn't mean the coach is a great coach. There's been a lot of coaches that could recruit like crazy, but couldn't coach a basketball game.
And really, that's flipped over the past, really since the one and done era started. The one thing I will give K is that he adapted with the times better than the other coaches that are on this list, where it went from Duke being the prototypical, that's the school you go to play fundamental basketball. You're going to be there 4 years. You're going to wait underneath another guy. They're going to mold you. You're going to play right, that kind of thing. And they completely flipped it on its head, starting with Kyrie Irving. And really a little bit before that, the 2001 title team had dudes that left after like 2 years, like Jason Williams and Luol Deng and those guys. So 2011 with Kyrie and them, that's when he really changed how he recruited and went full head on into the one and done era. And really has gotten to the point where he's even better than Calipari at doing this. But that comes with a price, like you said. I feel like there's been some teams Duke's had over the past 10 years where K hasn't coached as hard as he would have before. He just kind of rolled the ball out. The 2019 team in particular with Zion and RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish, I feel like they were just letting them run whatever they wanted to do. They might call a play, but it's an ISO for Zion at the top of the key, and everybody get out of the way, So it doesn't feel like he's coaching throughout the full 40 minutes of games. I saw, in the final minutes against Texas Tech, he was on the sidelines calling out some sets and things like that, but he doesn't do that all game.
No, he doesn't.
And he hadn't for a while. So I do agree with you that there is a difference between a great coach and a great recruiter.
Now, let me ask you, I'm going to name 4 people and tell me what they have in common, and I'll tell you if you don't get it right. Okay. Coach K, Roy Williams, who you know very well, Bob Higgins, another great coach, right? Mm-hmm. Jim Boeheim. What do all 4 of them have in common? And those all 4 great coaches.
Are all of them over 900 wins?
Well, you're right there, but guess what? They all played for the second best coach ever, Bobby Knight. Okay, and when people look at Bobby Knight, I put Bobby Knight ahead of Coach K. I'm sorry. Bobby Knight, a lot of people discredit Bobby Knight because of the antics he did when he was on the court, and it takes away some of his greatness as a coach. I mean, his former players and coaches, he promoted Coach K. Coach K learned under Bobby Knight.
Right.
Okay.
They had a falling out. They saw each other in the Final Four in 90. Was it 92?
Early
92. Yeah, it was one of the. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, because 91 they played UNLV. 92 they were going for the repeat. Had to play Indiana. Got past them, and then played Michigan in the final. And
when we talk about greatness, listen to this. He is 900. Okay, talk about wins. At the time, there's 5 coaches that have more wins than him. But at the time Bobby Knight retired, he was the winningest coach at 902 wins, 371 losses. Now, we talk about success in the tournament. 3-time NCAA Division I tournament winner, 5 times Final Four, 11 times Big Ten regular season, 8 times Big Ten Coach of the Year. It's hard to, and there's a good argument whether he's first, second, third, fourth, but if you have to include Bobby Knight in that talk, especially if you include Coach K, because even though they might have had a fallout here and there, he still learned from Coach K. Roy Williams was one of my favorite coaches. I loved Roy Williams. He learned from Bobby Knight. Say what you want. Jim Boeheim's still coaching. I think this is it for him. His kids or grandkids are playing with him, and I think that's it after that. But that's another great coach. I mean, look at all the people that have worked with Bobby Knight that have gone on not to just coach, but successfully coach.
I gotta chime in for my 2 guys before we run out of time here. First, shout out to Roy Williams, who should get more respect on this conversation. 3 national championships, took over a blue blood at Carolina. a member of the exclusive 900 win club. Actually, he's the fastest coach to 900 wins in history. So I give him props for that. He went to 9 Final Fours. He got to the 900 win mark in fewer games and seasons than any other coach in NCAA history. That's damn good coaching. 903 wins in 33 seasons. It's 100 more than any other coach in history, including K and Roy's mentor, Dean Smith, who I'll talk about here in just a second. The 2017 North Carolina Tar Heel National Championship team, I've been on record, that's my favorite Carolina team of all time because of the journey that squad had to go through, losing to Villanova the year before on a last-second shot in the national championship, and then the bulk of that rotation coming back, basically treating the year as a business trip to get back to the Final Four and accomplishing it, was just probably the crown jewel of Roy Williams' career. And then, of course, whenever the conversation of GOAT basketball coach comes up, of course, I'm always like, John Wooden should be number one. He did things that are never going to be done again. And I don't care if it was only 48 teams in the field or 32 or whatever it was.
Doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter. He still had to do it. No one's going to win 7 in a row or 10, like in a 12-year span, which is nuts. Plus, Wooden had some of those teams that were undefeated. Like these other teams, like Bobby Knight had an undefeated Indiana champion. K's never had an undefeated champion at Duke. Roy never had an undefeated champion at Carolina. Dean never had one at Carolina either. But when it comes to Dean Smith, the one thing that separates him from me from all of these other coaches is the effect he had off the court as well. He was very integral in Chapel Hill becoming desegregated during the 60s. He brought in the first African-American star in the ACC in Charlie Scott in a place in North Carolina in the 60s where, that was kind of frowned upon to do that kind of thing. Dean saw ahead of the game. There's things in the game that Dean is attributed to. The shot clock. There was no shot clock really before Dean threw the 4 corners out there and just kind of mucked up college basketball to the point where they had to change the rule. Like Dean did things with the coaching mentality where they had to change the sport. Like that's a different level of coaching where they're changing the rules because of something you're coaching your team to do. The little huddle that you see teams do at the foul line whenever there's a foul, they do a quick little huddle at the foul line and then they go to where they're supposed to go. That's a Dean Smith thing. That came from Carolina. That's something that Dean implemented with them. Whenever there's a fast break and there's an assist made for a dunk or a score or 3 or whatever, and the scorer points at who passed him the ball. That's a Carolina thing. That's a Dean Smith thing that he made sure he wanted the person that assisted on the play to get credit for the play itself. So it's not all about the glory of whoever scored. It's about the team. And he did so many things like that we don't think about today that are still part of the game that makes me lean towards Dean being higher. Plus, he kicked K's butt all the time. Like when Dean and K were, when K came in, Dean was still the king of the mountain in the ACC. K didn't really become K until, if you really look at it,
that's right,
after 92, 93. And then they were going back and forth. But Dean was the one bringing in those crazy recruiting classes at the end of his career with Jerry Stackhouse and Rasheed Wallace, and then Vince Carter and Antoine Jameson and these guys coming in. Duke was kind of, people don't want to talk about it, but Duke had kind of bottomed out for a little bit there when K had his back surgery and had to miss the 95 season. It took them like 2 years to kind of turn it back around. And then by the end of the decade, of course, Dean had retired in 97. Once he was gone, the ACC became K's world and everything in it. So you see 98, 99, they're in the final. 2001, they win a championship and they're off and running there. But he wouldn't K until Dean left. So to me, that's another notch in, where were you at your peak? Because we just mentioned earlier, that was his peak, that decade, really. So how could he be at his peak in that decade? But there's a dude in that decade that's beating you consistently in your own conference in Dean Smith. And the last 16 years, when Roy was at Carolina, he had more success than K did. Won more national championships, won more ACC titles, won more ACC tournaments. And I feel like we're just kind of looking at the overall numbers of what K has done and trying to
how long he's done it. That I think that is the fact.
He's done it longer than everybody. But see, even some of that too, like he just crossed over 100 wins in the NCAA tournament, right?
Right.
They just went to 64 teams in 85. Like half of those, like Wooden, Dean, some of those tournaments they went to, they only had to play like 4 games, like to get to the championship or whatever. They didn't have as many games to play. So That's never taken into account when people talk about K having more NCAA tournament wins than everybody. He's had more games to play than some of these guys before him were.
And I will tell you something, the best coaching group that ever was assembled, I would have to say at one time in one conference, had to be the early 80s Big East, when you had Thompson, Rolly Massimino, Connor Secker, right? Jim Calhoun. I mean, when you talk about a group, you talk about a recruiting battle, my goodness gracious, the battles that went on in the Big East, and I missed a couple of coaches right there. Patino might have even been back then.
Patino was at Providence.
Providence. So that was an unbelievable. That's when Big East basketball owned basketball.
The only thing I would probably put up against that would probably be the ACC in the late 80s with like Dean Smith, Coach K, Bobby Crimmins at Georgia Tech.
That's right.
Dave Odom at Wake Forest. You still, I think Valvano was still at State towards the end of the 80s.
And am I correct? Didn't Roy Williams, if I remember, I lived up in Boston for a couple of years. Didn't he coach Boston College first before North Carolina?
Roy is Roy
was he a
played
Dean
for Carolina.
Prodigy?
Yeah, he was a Dean Prodigy. He played for Carolina, was on Dean's staff through the 80s. And then when the Kansas job opened up, when after they won the national championship in '88, they got put on probation. Larry Brown was coaching them and resigned. And Dean, who's from Kansas and has a relationship with the university, put in a good word for Roy, and that's how Roy got his first coaching job at Kansas. And then, but then
at the very beginning of his
that's why when Dean retired, he was actually Roy was actually their first choice. That was Dean's first choice, but he said no. And that's how Matt Daugherty became the head coach. When they fired Daugherty, Dean asked again, and Roy's famous for saying, when Dean Smith asks you something twice, you don't say no. So he came home in 2003, and 2 years later, Carolina won state national championship. Roy's first, and along from there. I'm so happy for Roy. I see him in the crowd cheering,
yes, I saw
enjoying retirement. People were like, "Well, I thought he was supposed to be retired. What's he doing in all these basketball games?" I'm like, "Oh,
he
right."
So
eating popcorn is the same thing as coaching a blue blood. Like, I mean, he's up there living his life, and to see who he handpicked to take the Carolina team into the next era, to have this success the way he's having it. It just makes me as a Carolina fan feel good that they made a pretty good choice with that selection. We are out of time. This went by really, really fast today. Shout out to everybody that was on today. Brandon Blakney from the 4-Man Rush, Kevin Avery, voice of the Charlotte Hornets radio network, Sam Farber, Larry Frank, the host of Frankly Speaking Sports. It was a big one. It was a large one. And hopefully next week, well, I don't even want to say hopefully. Next week, if it goes down, we'll find out this weekend. But if it goes down, Larry, I told Brandon, be prepared. Next week when we do Rundown, it's going to be a Carolina Duke themed show for 2 hours. I don't even know how I'm going to do this, but
there's plenty that will be talked about if that happens.
Let's just hope it doesn't happen. I don't want Armageddon to happen.
Well, isn't it good for North Carolina? Isn't it good for North Carolina to happen for the state?
We're going to find out. We're either all going to be out looting and rioting, or the state's going to fall in a sinkhole or something. I don't know. We've never had it happen, so I don't know. We're going to find out.
3 ACC teams, buddy, could be in the Final Four.
Man, Carolina, Duke, Miami. Let's root ACC. Again, check us next week. You've been listening to The Rundown, WWBG 1470 AM and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com.